Arcturus Prime relays in range. Initiating transmission sequence.
Commander?
We are connected. Calculating transit mass and destination. The relay is hot. Acquiring approach vector. All stations secure for transit. The board is green. Approach run has begun.
Hey, what's up? It's Bon. Let's talk about Mass Effect. As you may have been able to tell from the intro here, we are going to be talking about Shepard, but not how you might think. Obviously, Shepard is a big topic right now with the next game, as everyone is guessing whether or not we'll play as Shepard again, whether Shepard shows up as an NPC, whether Shepard's dead, whether the game takes place hundreds of years later and Shepard and everyone else is dead as well. That's not what we're on about today. Today, I want to talk about whether or not a non-human character could, would, or should be the protagonist of the next Mass Effect game. So I guess I want to kind of throw out my philosophy on how I think about the next game before I really go into anything else, where I want to talk about how when I'm addressing things that I'm guessing for the next game and stuff like that, I am looking at it from three perspectives. One, I'm looking at it how I want it to be as a fan, my personal hopes and desires for what happens. Two, I'm looking at it from what I think would be best for the franchise or the IP or BioWare and EA, what I would think would technically be the best thing for them to do. And then three, I look at it as what is realistic? Like, what do I think they're going to do? A good example of these 3 points is how I think they should handle the canon of potentially setting canon endings from Mass Effect 3 for the next game. Personally, I would like them to destroy the canon ending, because I personally believe that that's the best ending to take forward and to reduce the distraction from trying to address the other endings. What I think would be best for the IP, both especially for old fans, would be to address all of the endings and make all of the endings a possibility for the next game. What I think is actually going to happen is probably that they're going to canonize one of the endings. I would make some pretty strong arguments it'll be Destroy, beyond my own personal desires, but more so because by the end of the trilogy, Mass Effect was such a big, spread out, gigantic thing. Trying to make the next game take into account all of the choices, even just the endings, would be really hard. So there's that. So there's my kind of philosophy. So when I take that same approach to whether or not the next game will allow us to pick our own species or race or whatever you want to call it, my personal take is that no. I think Mass Effect from the start has been a story and a franchise told from the perspective of humans, about humanity and about humanity's integration and comeuppance in the galactic spectrum, or the galactic community, right? So that's my personal take. What I think would be best for the franchise would probably be to allow you to choose, because like the Dragon Age games give you some more flexibility there. That's within BioWare's sphere. In most other games in this very general genre allow you to do that if there's multiple species in the game. What I think is actually going to happen, the reality, is I think they're going to try to satisfy everyone. My guess is they are going to stick with It's a human story told from a human perspective, but I think they may allow a situation kind of like Inquisition with Dragon Age, where you can take control of your squad mates during combat and exploration and stuff like that, but that you are still primarily your main character, which for Mass Effect would be a human exclusively. I understand the desire to play as the other species. People who played the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer got that opportunity for the first time in the series to play as a Krogan or a Turian or a Quarian or a Geth, or I believe even a Prothean, and some of the other species as well. I think the issue is that whether or not they bring back Shepard, I think that they will, if they don't bring back Shepard, that they'll be trying to establish a new protagonist. I think they'll be trying to do it in a way that improves on what they attempted to do with Ryder. People have mixed opinions about Andromeda, but I would say that in the grand scheme, Ryder was not a strong protagonist, whether it was either one of the twins. And it's why I think they may just go back to Shepard, because it's going to be easy and it's a way to bring in new players and make old players happy. But if they go for a new protagonist, I really think they're going to be trying to set up something iconic again. I think an issue that you would run into with having the player be able to be multiple species is you're talking about a half dozen or maybe even over a dozen voice actors you would likely cast to play all of the different species. Now, maybe Mark Meer could get crazy and do a Vorcha voice for our Vorcha protagonist, but I don't think that's going to happen. And I'm not implying I think Mark Meer is the next protagonist, because if it's not Shepard, he probably won't be. But I don't think it would feel right. I don't think it would make sense. I understand the cool factor, but I don't think it would be good for the franchise or the lore. And admittedly, with bias, I wouldn't personally like it myself. When it comes to actual gameplay, I think it'd be fine. The way that they were able to handle Mass Effect 3 in the multiplayer and to try to balance out the various species, I don't think that would be an issue. I just think it really comes down to the origins of the franchise, of what the franchise has been trying to do, and to try to tell these stories from a familiar perspective, from a perspective we could imagine ourselves in. And I think that them adding the ability to make the protagonist another species is just getting too far away from the kind of tradition of Mass Effect. So that's just my take. I'm really curious about what you think. Please let me know down in the comments. Let me know what you think. Do you want to be able to pick an alien species as the protagonist in the next game? Do you want Shepard back? Do you want it to be a human and that's it? Let me know. I will not accuse you of being the new Ashley if you only want to be human. I won't judge you if you want to play as the aliens either. I just am really curious to what other people think, and I want some reasoning behind it. If you only want humans, tell me why. If you want to be able to play as aliens, tell me why. I think it's a good conversation to get started, and I'm excited to see your responses. That's all I have for this one. Please subscribe to the channel if you want more Mass Effect videos. There's plenty coming. Like this video in particular, and like I said before, comment down below. You can catch me on socials as Bond Diesel. You can catch me on Twitter, you can catch me on Twitch, I'm over on Instagram and places like that, so please do that. You can also support the content I make by checking out patreon.com/BondDiesel with $1, $5, and $10 support tiers. They get you a bunch of perks, including ad-free episodes of my podcast, which is a weekly gaming podcast where I talk about the news, I talk a lot about Mass Effect, and I've been doing interviews recently as well with people you probably are aware of in the Mass Effect community, including Mr. Holthen and Mark Dara. So please check all that stuff out. Links and stuff are in the description of this video, as well as the banner of my channel. And that's all I have for this one. So until next time.